Okay, look at these paddles. These eyes, they're pretty scary looking. And I had never seen one of these out in the wild before, and I think I'd remember if I had. But I'm hoping that changes, because these paddles from Phantom Pickleball really surprised me. They're very, very good, and they're actually not just unique with their look, but how they're made and how they play. And we're gonna talk all about that. However, I wanna say at the top here and make it clear that I'm not being paid to make this review. I think I've gotta say that for this video in particular, because I'm not sure everyone's gonna believe what I'm saying about these paddles is how I really feel. Especially since I know there are a lot of people that haven't heard of Phantom Pickleball. I was one of them until super recently, and people might think a paddle with this unusual look couldn't be geared for competitive play, but we're gonna talk about that. And I also know there will probably be some folks in the comments saying I'm full of baloney after they hear my review. However, I wanna say up top that I've played with a lot of paddles since starting this channel. Ones I like, ones I love, ones I know that would be good for other kinds of players than me, and then just a few that were just plain bad. And I actually had pretty low expectations for these paddles right here. I thought they were straight up catalog paddles with some unusual face art, but I was dead wrong. So I hope you'll give this video a watch. I think you'll be surprised by what I have to say. And to be clear, Phantom did not pay me for this review. However, they are letting me give one of their paddles away for free, so feel free to stick around until the end of the video to see how to enter. Okay, enough of that, let's talk paddles. We're going to look at two paddles from Phantom's lineup. This is the Phantom Trinity, which is geared for intermediate to advanced players, and this is the Phantom Internal, which is supposed to be for beginners. However, I think this $68 paddle after discount should be considered by a much wider audience, and we're going to talk about that. But first, I want to dig into Phantom's flagship paddle, the Trinity. The Trinity is a Gen 2 14mm paddle with a T700 raw carbon fiber face. It's elongated, it's thermoform unibody with foam edges. Its core is modified polypropylene with 6mm cells. Its dimensions are 16.5 by 7.5 inches. Its grip length is 5.5 inches. The grip circumference is 4.25 inches. And this handle is top notch. It reminds me of Tempur's handles, which I think are as good as they get. And the average weight is 7.9 to 8.3 ounces. It includes this super premium paddle cover with the scary eyes. And it has a limited lifetime manufacturing defects warranty plus a 30-day return window. As for price, it's $120 after you use promo code MatthewK to knock off 20%. Okay, when I first saw this paddle, I thought it would be a copycat of the Vatic Pro V7. There are a lot of those out there these days. Sometimes they vary the weight a bit to give it a little more juice, but a lot of them are virtually the same paddle in my opinion. However, that is not the case with the Trinity. First of all, this is a 14mm paddle. Secondly, Phantom says they've modified the core in some way, and I believe them after playing with it quite a bit. Part of that customization includes using smaller cells than most other paddles, and then I'm sure there's something else going on in there as well. You can really feel a difference when you play with it compared to other paddles, and I usually don't like 14mm paddles. The Trinity has a ton of pop and a ton of power. It's super crisp and just a lot of fun to hit with. Its power and pop reminds me of some of the hotter Gen 2 paddles out right now, like the original Kinetic from Mark Pickleball, the Honolulu J2H, and the Huarache X Control Plus. But what's interesting is that the Eternal's boost of power isn't coming from how Phantom makes its surface. It's not from adding some combination of Kevlar or fiberglass. Instead, it's from that 14mm core buildup and whatever modifications they did to it. That secret sauce, which does include small 6mm cells in the honeycomb compared to the more common 8mm, creates some phenomenal pop and power while also retaining great control. Way fewer issues with unwanted pop-ups than those other hot paddles for me. And that's partially to do with Phantom getting that boost of power and pop without dramatically changing the surface. It's still got a normal raw carbon fiber face, so you have all that spin and grab you're used to with very familiar dwell time. The ball sits on the face just long enough to do whatever you want with it. And that helps the Trinity be what folks might call a linear paddle. It doesn't respond and feel crazy different when you hit soft compared to when you hit hard. It's consistent. Whereas another paddle in this category that seems pretty similar at first glance, the Hudef Viva Pro Gen 2, is more of a dynamic paddle. The touch and feel varies greatly with the Viva Pro Gen 2 depending how much power you put behind your hit. So a dynamic paddle like the Viva Pro Gen 2 will often require one mindset for your soft game and another mindset for your driving and your hard hitting game. And my favorite part of pickleball is the short, soft game up at the kitchen. So I really appreciate that I don't have to play two different styles and remember to hold back on certain shots and go full force on others with the more linear Trinity paddle. I get to keep the same mindset the whole time, which is freaking great. It lets me be a lot more relaxed. So I think the Trinity is a great choice for someone that wants to keep their game consistent between soft hits and hard hits, but still have a ton of power and pop. It's way more controllable and easier to work with than some of these hot paddles on the market right now, and it just feels super familiar. That combo makes this paddle a unique option for how much power and pop you get. And I also want to mention it's got a great handle and grip that reminds me of the ones Temper makes, and I think Temper pretty much sets the bar when it comes to grips and handles. Plus, the Trinity comes with that super fancy paddle cover I mentioned before. As for value, $120 after promo code MatthewK knocks off that 20% is a great price. I know it's a smaller brand, but I really do think it's worth trying them out, and that's all I've got to say about the Trinity. It's just a really fun and pleasurable paddle to play with. Now, I want to move on to the Eternal. This paddle is a complete no-brainer. Just skip watching the rest of this video and buy it. It doesn't matter what kind of player you are, it's the best 68 bucks you're going to spend on anything pickleball related. But just in case you want to know why, let's get into it. The Eternal is a 14mm paddle. It's got a T700 carbon fiber face. It's a standard shape. It's a Gen 1 paddle, but it is unibody. And it also has a modified polypropylene core, but with the more traditional 8mm cells. The dimensions are 16 by 8 inches. The grip length is 5.25 inches. The grip circumference is 4.25 inches. And the average weight is 7.9 to 8.1 ounces. And it includes a neoprene paddle cover, also with the scary eyes and a pretty cool back. And then it has a limited lifetime manufacturing defects warranty as well, so be sure to register, as well as a 30-day return window. As for price, this thing is only 68 bucks after you use promo code MatthewK to knock off 20%. Okay, Phantom advertises this thing as a beginner paddle, and I think that's a huge mistake. This is a control lover's dream and stands right up there with Honolulu's J3 and the Volair Mach 2 Forza in my opinion, and that is super high praise. I just love playing with the Eternal. It also has some kind of altered core. I'm not sure what Phantom did to it. I do know it's using the more traditional 8mm size cells in its polypropylene, but this thing just feels different, especially considering it's 14mm. And once again, I typically don't like 14mm cores. This thing plays like a freaking catcher's mitt with exceptional dwell time. You catch the ball and have plenty of time to throw it back. It's just a real dream to maneuver. And then it's also got great power and pop, in my opinion. I actually have a hard time believing it's a Gen 1 paddle without any thermoforming. I know Paddle Tech has some super powerful Gen 1 paddles, so it just goes to show there's innovation out there in the non-thermoforming space. You just have to look for it. The Eternal's hits are just really satisfying. You won't be thinking you're playing with a cold press paddle with this in your hands. And I did confirm it's unibody, so that will definitely help in the durability department. Finally, I had no issues with its surface. It has great grab and spin. I could direct the ball however I wanted, so I could really take advantage of how long the ball sunk into the paddle and target it just how I wanted. So if you've been thinking about adding a control paddle to your bag, but you just didn't want to spin very much, this is the paddle for you. $68 after using promo code MatthewK for that 20% discount is a plain no-brainer. And it comes with that nice neoprene paddle cover as well. And if you don't think you need this for yourself, this would make a great loaner paddle to have in your bag for somebody else. I don't know if it happens at open play everywhere, but I'm always surprised when somebody walks up to the pickleball courts and doesn't have a paddle. So this would be a good backup to keep with you. Also, just like the Trinity, the Eternal has a really nice feeling handle as well. I just love the shape. It does have exposed polymer, but I didn't mind it at all, and I'm a snob when it comes to grips and handles and how they feel, so this one is seriously well made. Okay, now you know why I had to do the disclaimer at the top of the video. Phantom's paddles just really surprised me, and I think they'll surprise you as well. Now, if I could give Phantom some unsolicited advice, I would highly recommend making some versions of their paddles where the eyes are smaller or maybe somewhere else on the face. I think the current look might turn some folks off, but I also had one guy spot this thing on the courts and pretty much slobber over its graphics, so it's definitely a mixed bag. And then I would also recommend Phantom do an Eternal with a raw carbon fiber face to have as an additional option. I actually really love the performance of the current Eternal's face, but I would have to hit with it a lot longer to see how it holds up. But for real, these are some great paddles, so I think it's definitely worth entering the giveaway. For that, all you need to do is like this video, subscribe, comment which paddle from Phantom Pickleball you want me to review next. They've got more paddles on their site, so please pick a different one than these two, and then fill out the Google form in the description so I have a way to contact you if you win. That's it. The raffle will be in about a month, so be on the lookout for an email. Good luck. And if you want to pick one of these paddles up right away, I'll be sure to leave a link in the description for Phantom's site. And don't forget to use promo code MatthewK for that 20% discount. I'll also leave some links and codes for some other cool paddles and paddle companies. Be sure to check those out. Using those does help me and helps the channel, so it's always appreciated. And please like and subscribe, that helps me too. But most importantly, I hope you get to pickle soon, and just don't forget, it's about having fun.